Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Welcome back to the Misunderstood Show. We have a very exciting guest today, my husband, Casey Hoffman. And we have been asked by several people to tell our story, our love story, and how we met, because people find it very interesting, entertaining. It's inspired a lot of people. So we have decided to come on and tell our story today.
Hello, everybody.
So, yeah. So it's a little bit different than how we normally do this. I'm not actually interviewing somebody, but there might be some disagreement because we have different perspectives on how things went down. But yeah, so it started with, I decided to, a friend of mine and I decided to jump on the internet one day, and we were trying to figure out how to meet ranchers because she told me that I needed to find a rancher because that's just, I've always had like a passion or a love for the country and living in the country, and I'd gone through like a crazy divorce, and so I was like, I'm good, I'll stay single. I got my kids, I got my career, I'm doing well. And then she was like, well, but what if, what would it take? And I had written a list of 36 things that I wanted in a man, and I was told by my dear friend Wesley that even Jesus doesn't have all those qualities, hun. And I was like, but I'm not going to settle for less. And I really meant it. I rewrote that list several times. I prayed over it, rewrote it, prayed over it, rewrote it, and I narrowed it down. And anyway, shout out to Wesley out there because he knows now that there are people out there that are almost as good as Jesus, apparently. Yeah. He ain't perfect, but he's perfect for me. And I'm very grateful. But yeah, so I wrote my list, and then she was like, hey, she's like, I wonder how you find ranchers. We could go to like the bar in Blanco or something. I'm like, I'm not picking up dudes in a bar. Brittany. It was Brittany. We love Brittany. Shout out to Brittany. And she's very silly. She's from California, but her dad owns a big ranch, so she's kind of like California ranch girl. She's a dog lover. She rescues dogs and has a passion for saving animals, and I just love her. But anyway, she was like, well, maybe, I wonder how you can find it. So she starts Googling. Thank goodness we didn't have ChatGPT back then. She starts Googling how to meet ranchers and stuff. And so the first thing that pops up is farmersonly.com. And she's like, oh my God, farmersonly.com. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. And she was like, you don't know what Farmers Only is? And I was like, no. I've never been on a dating website in my life, and I don't watch a whole lot of TV. She's like, you never seen the commercials, Farmers Only, so you're not lonely or something? Is that how it goes? You know how it goes. How's it go?
I've never seen the commercials.
You never saw the commercials
no.
either? Well, how'd you find it?
Some of my friends said I should try Farmers Only like years back, and I was like, whatever. Is that really a thing? Yeah, I was kind of like you. I had no idea that existed. I thought there was only like Match and, the really big mega companies that do that. But no, I'd never heard of it.
And like Christian Mingle and different stuff.
Yeah.
I'd never been on a dating website my whole life. I'd never talked to anybody on the website. I'd had guys trying to slide in. Oh my gosh.
Can you pull it up for the
Sure. Dick's going to give us a little clip of the Farmers Only website with the commercial so y'all can check it out. This is hilarious. I've never actually seen it. I've seen like spoof ones. Let me know when you're going to play it. Are you playing it?
This might be a spoof. No, is it?
I think that's the real one.
No, it looks pretty legit to me.
Is that really what it looks like with those old people?
Probably.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Try it for free.
Try it for free. And so I did the free. So, because city folks just don't get it. I should have sent you a picture of our wedding cake.
Is that what it said?
It had a
City-
farmers only logo.
Oh,
That
that's
said
great.
My friends made it for him as a surprise, as his groom's cake. Because they're like, what kind of groom's cake do you want? And he's like, oh, I just want like a Italian cream from his sister-in-law, Shakia. And they had a whole image of the actual farmers only logo on the cake. It was pretty cool. And a lot of people at our wedding were like, y'all met on farmers only? Like, they had no idea. It's not like we're running around telling everybody.
It's not a hidden secret, but it's not something you commonly ask. So it's,
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a niche of the I met online kind of cliche.
Yes.
Because every time I saw that commercial, I'm like, I can't be on that because I'm not a farmer.
Well, and I'm not a farmer either. And I wasn't trying to get on there and date people. So what happened was she
You're
saw
looking
that.
for someone to take care of your farm.
No,
That's
honestly,
what it was. It's like, I need some ranch hands. Where should I go? FarmersOnly.com,
well,
man.
I don't own a farm. I didn't own a farm.
That would be. I wonder how often that would happen. You think about it,
don't
Casey,
know.
right? It's like
Yeah.
we were trying to hire some good
there's a
people.
So to go back to what you're talking about, hiring people. So that's really kind of what happened so my friend and I were drinking some wine, and we're at my friend Wesley's house, and we were selling. I had just listed his house. I'd been over there that day. We had landscaped it, cleaned it, got it ready for pictures, and Brittany came over. She was going to take second shift because our friend Wesley had like neck surgery, and he was like laid out and on drugs, and he was on his couch. He had like a big L-shaped couch, and that had recliners, so he was just chilling out in one corner. We're in the other. We start drinking. She brings wine. We start drinking wine. I'm a total lightweight, as everybody knows. 2 glasses. I'm, Frank the Tank. So so she's like,
I think that's opposite of Frank the Tank. Just to let you know.
well, I just mean like I get like.
I'm pretty sure Frank the Tank. The joke is he could drink so much beer, and then he becomes Frank the Tank after
well, I become
drinking.
Frank the Tank after 2.
Okay.
But it like wakes me up. Like I'm like, oh, let's go do this. Let's go do that. Like, right? Like he's like, how does it give you so much energy? He wants to go take a nap, and I'm ready to like go have fun. And my kids love when I drink because they're like, fun mom. So
Good
I don't
for
drink
you.
often, but when I do, I'm just.
But you get on FarmersOnly.com when you drink.
I get on
get it.
FarmersOnly.com. I do silly things. And so me and her get on there, and she's like, oh, yeah, let's sign up. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, screw it. You know what? I've always wanted to just kind of put everything out there. This is my opportunity to like throw it all out there, like who I am and what I believe in, and not care because nobody's ever going to see this, right? So I put all my political views, all my religious views.
She laid it out in a very detailed bio.
Yes. Like everything I've ever wanted to say on social media, basically.
Yeah.
And I did put like I owned a landscape business.
I hate
and
the color purple. She
Not so much
I mean,
that,
yeah,
but it was like, I believe in Jesus. If you don't, move along. If you voted for this person, move along.
Really?
Yeah. I just threw it out there. And it's not that I'm like Republican or Democrat. I don't choose sides, but there are specific people in the
We're also looking for a mate.
political world that I definitely don't like
Yeah, you're
and
looking
don't
for a
agree with
companion,
what they
too.
believe in. Like I'm 100% pro-life. So, and that's your choice.
But you put that on your bio.
Yeah.
Casey, did you put that kind of stuff on your bio?
I don't even remember.
No, he
my
didn't put.
bio.
He put like drinks excessively.
Did I really put that?
That's pretty good.
Probably.
Yeah, he had that on there, and that was kind of a red flag for me because I'm like, I just went through a divorce with somebody who drank a lot, and I was trying to get away from that.
I understand.
And I don't drink often. I just like to go out and drink on celebration time, and then I don't drink at all. Like I don't drink at
I get it.
home. Do I ever drink at home? Like it's unless I have like a really good reason to drink. Like I'm celebrating, or I don't like to drink when I'm sad because that's never a good cocktail, So anyway, so my friend and I were just like, oh, we're going to make this crazy profile. And then we start looking at these people that are on Farmers Only, these guys. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Like we were just dying laughing. The men on there were just cracking us up. It was like people of Walmart, not trying to be rude, but we all know about the people of Walmart that they post all over the internet. And it's basically kind of to me what it was. It was like a train wreck. You can't help but look. There was a guy on there that took a picture of his butt with no shirt on, and he's in Wranglers, and he had hair like all over his lower back, like coming out of his jeans, and it said, I think it said like, I don't remember what it said. He had like some weird caption, and then we're just like, ew, gross. Like you could see all it. I'm like, dude, you could at least shave your patch before you take the picture.
Yeek.
It was very like puby looking. So anyway,
Whoa.
and then there was another guy that was like posing. It was like a glamour shot, and he's like looking like this, very serious, and he had this mustache that went all the way down. He was super pale, and like he almost looked like a male version of Wednesday from the Addams Family.
Some people like that, I guess.
I know, but not me.
Red-
and he had like dark hair, and he's posing, and it says Captain Fantastic, and I'm like,
it's spoofy. From
Yeah.
what I get out of it, it's a spoof on everybody
There's
that's
just, like-
looking for men that are just have these. They're making fun of
They're
people.
great. There's
well,
some
I
great.
think some of the men were putting stuff on there to be ridiculous. Like they were
Absolutely,
making
that's what I'm saying.
profiles
They're spoofing.
Yeah. There's another guy that was wearing like one of those hats that has like the fake hair, like the visor.
Yeah.
And he's wearing like pajamas, and he has like a Bush beer and a shotgun. Like, it's just, it was insane. So I'm screenshotting this stuff and sending it to my friends. Oh, look, my future ex-husband. Ha ha ha. You know, we're just being ridiculous.
Well, let me paint a little
We're
bit of context.
swiping.
Hold on just a second.
Like
Oh,
fast.
here we go.
Time
Let
out.
Casey talk.
Let's put a little bit of context. Everybody's been locked up for about
True.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So you have some stir crazies out there that are just wanting to, have their recreation time is not spent outside. It's probably
Right.
spent in, on their phone or on the computer
so-
and doing stuff. So
We met summer of 2020 during COVID. It was, lockdown time. And, I was running around doing real estate, landscaping, working nonstop. And also I was roommating with a friend of mine who had 3 boys and I had my 2. So there was 5 boys in the house, me and her. And she worked a lot because she ran a hospital during COVID. So she was working all the time. So we were just like working, taking care of kids, trying to figure it out. I was dragging kids around with me in my Tahoe to landscape jobs and listings and showings. And I don't even know how, honestly, like I did all that and got through it. We would just stop at like McDonald's and parks and in between and burn off energy and throw them in the backyard and let them run around while I was showing the house. I mean, people were very understanding during that time. My friend Molly, I just saw her at Bill Krager's funeral, and we were just talking about that. She was like, I can't believe like that was so crazy, And so, I was just trying to work and restart my life and rebuild and save money and get on my own and buy an RV or whatever I had to do to like, make it on my own with my kids. And actually me and my roommate's time, Taryn, and then my friend Lisa, were talking about buying land and like splitting it up, like 15 acres, split it 5 acres each and have like our own commune out there and grow a vegetable compound and have vegetables and animals and a little energy windmill, like one of those little mini. So I found 13 acres up on this hill in Canyon Lake that I really was interested in. That these guys had inherited from their parents, and they were like just not really doing anything with it. I think they were like meth heads because it's Canyon Lake, so there's a lot of those. But anyway, I was like really researching that property to try to figure out how to like contact them and make an offer, or send a letter, whatever. And then obviously I met you. So after like scrolling and swiping and making fun of people, this guy.
how long did it take?
I mean, we probably been on there for maybe an hour or so. I don't really remember how much time.
It was that afternoon. It was in the same sitting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it had been maybe an hour or two. We'd been just goofing around and being silly or whatever. And then Casey, will you go ahead and tell what happened?
I guess I had messaged you.
You did. Well, you liked my profile. And then Brittany had my phone, so she liked you back. She's like, ooh, he's cute. She liked you back. And I'm like, what are you doing? Absolutely not. No, these are weirdos. They're on the internet. I'm like very paranoid about serial killers. You know how I watch all those shows?
Mm-hmm.
I'm super paranoid. I've never been on like date somebody online. Very old school. Let's meet people organically, y'all, through friends or whatever. So she liked you, and then it sent like an automatic, I guess, message that said, oh, I like your profile.
Yeah, I think
and
it's
I was
a
like,
notification.
this dude's lame. I didn't know it was an automatic message that it sent me from you. And so remember, I was like, awesome reply, dude. Like, you're lame. And then you actually messaged me and said, hey, I see that you own a landscape company.
Yeah.
Would you, if you ever need a skid steer operator or anything, because you have a lot of experience in operating equipment?
I think I might have picked up that you said you.
Well, I had on my profile. No, I just had on my profile that I owned a landscape company. I was definitely not trying to like talk to anybody.
Workers.
No, like he was saying, like recruit. That's what I was saying. I was going back to that. Like I wasn't actually trying to recruit anybody, but I did happen to need a landscape or a skid steer operator for my landscaping business. I had this guy I was using at the time that was tearing up all kinds of stuff. He would run into people's trees and all kinds of stuff and tear stuff up because he didn't know how to operate a skid steer very well. And so I was like, oh, like honestly, that would be amazing because you were talking to your sister like about her.
So my preface prior to us talking on Farmers Only was that I was so during COVID, I was in Fort Worth, Dallas, working construction. The COVID impacts of my job they were like hardly anything to do. So I went ahead and stopped working for that company, moved to the farm, rented an RV, staying on my brother's property, and basically he had a bunch of work to do for like the whole summer. So I'm working on transitioning from Dallas, Fort Worth to the farm, looking for a job in Houston where my kids and my ex-wife live. So that was kind of my
because they
plan.
moved here. Like y'all originally, your ex-wife and your kids were in Fort Worth.
Correct.
For many years, and then she took a job down here.
Yeah, her job moved her down here, and I was always trying to come down here. So I mean, COVID and just God has His way of making plans for you if you don't.
Oh, and He
and
does.
We can get to that later. But anyway, I'm working on the farm and harvesting wheat and hauled hay and
built a tank.
Cleaned out a tank. So at that point, it's the summer is kind of winding down. I think this is mid-July, probably.
When we met July. Well, we met online. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then you were supposed to call me Friday. And then we talked on the phone Sunday. And then we met Monday, which was July 20th. So whatever day.
So yeah, somewhere in the neighborhood of mid-July.
July 15th or whatever.
The work at the farm was starting to wind down and school's fixing to start. And I had been trying to find a job. I'd been trying to find a job for years in the Houston area. And it was even harder during the COVID pandemic and everybody shut down and everything. So my sister had been telling me for months, hey, you should probably look around San Antonio. I know that there's a bunch of construction going on there. So
yeah, we were like the fastest growing county that year in the U.S.
Right. So, and I kind of put that in the back of my head going, no, I'm moving to Houston. I'm moving for my kids. I'm moving to Houston. So when the summer started to wind down, I start kind of going, okay, well, what am I going to do? What are the possibilities? Right. And I went to church and I prayed to God. I was like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea.
And that was the first time you'd been to church in years.
Yeah, that's true.
Like 5 years or something?
Yeah, no, probably like 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. I hadn't been to church in a while, so I just went and just gave it all to Him. And I said, I don't know what to do. It's it's hard. And I think that afternoon was the day that I talked to you. So I was on Farmers Only just to meet people. I mean, I was asking every Tom, Dick, and Harry that even knew anybody in.
Dick? You asked Dick? I'm just kidding.
No, anybody that lived or had connections in the Houston area. I'm looking for a job.
Right.
So I'm even, trying to meet people on Farmers Only, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Not just looking to hit somebody up for a date, just getting to know people. Because I'm on the farm and I'm, I don't have anybody but my close family around me. I'm like isolated out there in the middle of nowhere.
Nothing. It's nothing. So industrial farms in the middle of nowhere.
That was an outlet for me to get actual interaction instead of sitting on a computer on ZipRecruiter, filling out your profile and submitting.
But you did go on a date with somebody from Farmers Only once before me.
Yeah, I did.
And she kind of catfished you, right? A little bit? No?
No.
I thought you said she was a little bit of a catfish. Like
she wasn't what she said she was. Okay. A little bit, but that was more of an appearance thing than anything.
Well, that's what catfishing is.
Yeah.
Well. Is you're not what you look like. And that's kind of my thing is when I saw your picture and you look cute, I'm like, this guy's a construction worker. Okay. So I honestly didn't think much of it. It was Brittany that was like, oh, he's cute, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Brittany, like, you don't know what this guy really... They always look better in their pictures than they actually do. And who knows if this is even his actual pictures, because people will use other... I mean, you're a good-looking guy, so who knows if it's even your pictures.
I hope you think so.
I mean...
So anyway...
I definitely think I married up, but...
Well, I don't know about that. So our first correspondence was,
You messaged me and you said, hey, if you ever need a skid steer operator, I might be moving to the area, let me know. And I was like, dude. And the way that you did it was very professional. You weren't creepy. You were just very matter of fact. Like, just let me know. And I was
there
like,
was no pretense of love
no.
or
It wasn't like
even a date
nothing.
at all. No.
And so that I was like, yeah, can you call me on Friday? And you were like, sure. Because I think I had a bunch of stuff going on. Obviously, my 2 jobs and kids. So, and no babysitters and no daycare and no school. And it was chaos. And so, I mean, we had a lot of fun that summer. We spent a lot of time on the lake, which I missed that a lot. But, especially Canyon Lake. But anyway, so you're supposed to call me Friday evening, and you didn't call me. And I'm like, I mean, when you own a business, like people are just shady, and it gets annoying. And I just have very little tolerance for people who don't do what they say they're going to do, or people who no-show, or like, do you want the job or not? And you didn't call me, so I was like, whatever. Then you texted me Saturday morning, and I was like, I said something. I was talking to text when I was driving down the road, and I have no filter, and it sent on its own.
The cuss word, yeah.
Well, I said, I don't even remember what I said, but I said something like, okay, like, I figured you were, like, drunk or something. I cussed or something. I was thinking in my mind, the guy probably got drunk. You said you had heat exhaustion and that you, like, passed out or threw up or something. And I'm thinking to myself Friday night, okay, like, it says you drink excessively on your profile. So I'm like, he probably got drunk and passed out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't want people that work for me I already had an issue with a guy I had to fire who was drinking on the back porch of my client's house on a golf course, a multi-million-dollar home. And he came home at noon and was like, your dude's drinking on my back porch. Like, I had to fire him. And I felt bad because I liked the guy a lot. And he actually was a really good worker. But you can't drink you can't be drinking on the job. So it was a red flag for me. So, but I was really needed a skid steer operator. So, and they're hard to find because with it growing so much there, all the good skid steer operators were already taken by these big companies and, investor or, development people. So I was left with the scraps all the time because I didn't have full-time work. I just had like jobs here and there. And so usually it's like older men, like
retired.
Yeah. Like Archie, who ended up being my best guy I ever had. No offense to you, because you didn't actually ever have to do it.
Yeah.
Because we hired Archie. Yeah. But you end up working the jobs anyway, but as more like a project manager instead of that. But anyway, so I kind of blew you off. I don't remember what I said. And then I text you again. I said, sorry, I cuss sometimes. I need Jesus. And you said, everybody needs Jesus. And I was like, I like this guy. Like this, and I know you.
I was raking hay when you said that, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave that one to the wind. And if
you said, can I call you later today? And I said, I'm good. I'm hanging out with my friends.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I went.
That's whenever I
went over
thinking, whatever. I messed that up.
I went and hung out with some friends that evening. I ran into Brittany again, and she was like, did you talk to that guy? Or maybe she called. I did hang out with Brittany. And she was like, did you talk to that guy? And I was like, no. And I told her what happened, and she was like, girl, it's 115 degrees outside. He's on a farm. Maybe he did have heat exhaustion. She's like, give people the benefit of the doubt.
So the story of what actually happened is my brother and I think my sister-in-law too, I had planted a garden in like April when I moved there. And we were picking black-eyed peas. And we were out there for probably, I don't know, probably a good 2 hours.
Drinking beer.
2.5 hours from and it was the heat of the day. It was like 4, it was probably 5 to almost 7.
Hottest part of the day.
Yeah, hottest part of the day. I went and ate after we got through, and took a shower and got in bed, and I just got sick.
But you were supposed to call me during that time that you were picking.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember what time it was, but I was like, man, I was supposed to call her and I didn't. I don't know. I don't remember that we had a time.
Yeah, it was like you were going to call me like at 5 or 6 in the evening when I was done with my landscape job. Anyway, right? Dick's laughing. I told you we'd argue a little bit.
I wouldn't have been done until almost dark anyway. But anyway, Yeah, I fell out. I started feeling bad. I got dizzy and I slept on the floor by a trash can because I was nearly throwing up. I'd probably had 5 or 6 beers.
I would be wasted if I drank 5 or 6 beers. You know me.
Yeah.
I'm a cheap date. That's what you say.
So anyway, fast forward the next day.
So the next day I got up, went to church, and I thought, I don't know why I'm in church, and suddenly I think about what Brittany told me, and I'm like, maybe I'm being too hard on him. I really need somebody. I'm going to give him another shot. And that's the day you went to church for the first time in many years. Mm-hmm. And with your sister.
Yeah.
And because he found out he had a sister the year before in November of 2019. Mm-hmm. He found out he had a sister randomly. And it's not as random as you think, but yeah. And then he had been talking to her. You were talking to her like every day at this point, trying to get to know her and all that stuff. Y'all were super close. And then I got out of church and I texted you and I said, you know, if you're available this afternoon, call me. And you did. And then what happened?
We talked on the phone for probably 2.5 hours while she went to her house. She cut my hair. And then
everybody was closed.
Yeah, because
everything was shut down.
And then we talked on the phone for 2.5 hours. Then I drove back to my brother's place back home, and then we talked again for about another 2 hours, or maybe an hour and a half or something like that. Then we were talking about everything under the sun, just kind of getting to know each other. And then by the end of the conversation, the second conversation, when I was back at home, something was going on at Taryn's house, and you were like, hey, I'm going to help her move some stuff to San Angelo. And I said, this is when my red flag went off. I was like, maybe I'm getting catfished again. But I was like, I'm only about 30 miles east of San Angelo, right? And you're like, yeah. And I was like,
well, I thought you were it said Panther Creek on your profile. So I was thinking Panther Creek, which is where my cousin went to school by school bus.
So on my profile, I put in the zip code for Spring, Texas, or the Woodlands, and I guess there's multiple zip codes.
Well, and
so that I could, because that's where I was planning on moving anyway.
That I was in Spring Branch, Texas. People confused that with Spring Branch, Houston. That whole website is not very accurate because it was saying you were in Panther Creek, and it was saying so
you thought I was by Coleman.
Yeah. Which is like an hour from where you're at.
Yeah,
right?
or around.
Which I'm familiar with that area because I lived in Coleman, and my family's all from Ballinger, Paint Rock, which is where.
That's how our first conversation kicked off. You'd be like, "Where are you from? What?" You start putting geographics.
I actually have cousins that work at the high school in Paint Rock, which what are the chances? I mean, so for people, a disclosure out there, Paint Rock High School. When you graduated with 16 people, and that was the big class. Normally, you'll had 10?
I mean, it was
on average.
Yeah, a few less than
and that. I don't know how many people will go to school there now, but it's still not.
No, it's not very big.
It's still really small.
Yeah.
So my cousins that are they're like third cousins, are like a principal and a teacher there. There's only from kindergarten to senior year, all in one school. How many kids do you think are in the whole school?
There's probably only I would say 15 teachers, maybe 18 teachers in the whole school. So.
And they have 5 kids in each class?
No. Maybe.
Yeah.
When I was in second grade, the class below me only had 5. I only had 6.
Wow. That's so small.
They thought about putting them with us. But anyway, back to our love story.
And I thought I went to a super small school because I went to Coleman and we had 60. I was there for 2 years, and then I was at Smithson Valley, which is where I'm mainly from, is Caney Lake. We had 300, and we still thought we were small, but
yeah, you don't really know small.
Well, now my kids are at the Woodlands, which is
mega
insane, you know. So it is small, but anyway. So to go back to our story, my roommate at the time, Taryn, she also was going through a divorce. I don't know. I don't think she'll care if I disclose this. I caught her husband cheating on her with their 20-year-old nanny and took pictures and sent it to her. It was me and her neighbor who also worked with her. We went in her little minivan and busted him with my zoom lens and her little video camera, like we're on that show Cheaters. legit. I mean, I just wish we actually filmed ourselves doing this because it would have been such a great.
Wait a minute, he was in a minivan or y'all were in a minivan?
We were, me and Jennifer.
Because it kind of sounded like you said you busted him in a minivan. I was like, wait a minute.
J-Carp, we'll call her J-Carp.
Yeah.
We went in her minivan. We went and met up at Walmart. I dropped off my car and got in her minivan, and we literally like parked and like scoped them out when they came out because she knew where they were. I didn't. She was like, I know where they're at. Let's go meet up at 7 a.m. I'm like, what? So anyway, we did, and we busted them, and we sent the pictures to her immediately. She was filing for divorce, and that took like 3.5 years or something for her to get divorced. But
so both of y'all are in transition.
Yeah, she's an amazing human, and she deserves so much better. And she's a great mom, and she's a great friend, and so don't be a cheater, or I'll come after you. I'm just kidding. I might. I've actually busted a few people.
She's
cheating.
not kidding.
Yeah, I've busted a few people, and if I have proof, I'll tell you. If I don't have proof, I'm not going to say anything because I've done that one time a long 25 years ago. I told on somebody, and that person didn't believe me, and then it messed up our friendship, and so I'll never do that again without proof. So if I have proof, I'll tell you. If I don't have proof, I'm not going to tell you.
Karen the Konnector, a.k.a. righting every wrong that she can.
Well, I've been cheated on by literally every single person I've ever been with in my whole life. Like every relationship, and so except you, obviously you're still here.
Yeah.
He knows there's
Almost
only one way out of this
5 years.
marriage.
So anyway, back to the story. Y'all are taking a U-Haul trailer back to San Angelo because Taryn is from San Angelo.
So Taryn happens to be from San Angelo, born and raised. She is my roommate. She comes in while I'm on the phone with you randomly and's like, hey, I need to take, she had rented a U-Haul and was taking a whole load of stuff to her mother's who was having this huge garage sale.
Right.
And so she was like, you want to go with me? And I was like, yeah, I'll come help.
And this is next day.
The next day. I've been to San Angelo one other time, maybe 2 other times my whole life.
Right.
Back when I lived in Coleman. And other than that, never been to San Angelo. Never even thought about going back to San Angelo. And then it's actually kind of a cool little town if you've never been. It's like right on the edge of the hill country, but you're in West Texas. It's pretty neat. They have a really cute like Christmas thing if you go during Christmas. They have some really cool. There's some cool stuff there. But anyway, the rodeo. I love the rodeo there. It's not too big. It's not too small. Like it's a pro rodeo, but it's not huge like Houston or San Antonio or Austin.
It's not people huge. It
and
is.
Your brother-in-law is the El Presidente, right?
Yeah.
So, that's cool because we get like special privileges, and I like special privileges. Makes me feel important. Thanks, Justin. So anyway, and Justin's actually from where I'm from, ironically. So that's how you ended up looking in New Braunfels is because he had connections there for jobs.
Right.
How weird is that? Turns out the place we ended up having our reception at is where his grandparents met. I mean, it's just kind of weird. Like, he was engaged to my friend Roshan that I went to church with for 10 years. It's just a super, super duper small world. And to have all those connections. And so, anyway, I was like, sure. And so you're on the phone. That's when you're like, I'm like 30 minutes. I was like, yeah, maybe we can meet up. I can meet you or whatever. I was thinking interview you. So I went with her the next morning, and then I forgot to call you that morning. And then I called you at like lunch because we were going to meet at lunch, and then I forgot to call you because it was chaotic that morning. And Taco Cabana was giving out margarita samples that morning and in the drive-thru when we went to get tacos, and I decided to drink some tequila on the way, those little tiny bottles. That's all I need. So then I was like, woo, one little bottle of tequila for me. And we were just having fun. It was like a girls' road trip. We're listening to music. We're being silly. We're just trying to make the best of it. And we actually had a really great time. We get there. We're sweating. I mean, it's July, and we're unloading this truck. I mean, sweating, dripping sweat. And when you're doing garage sale, it's like dust. You're just covered in grossness,
Gotcha.
Dusty, nasty. So we unload all that stuff. And then I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot to call him. So then I text you, and you were like, I can meet later today at like 5. And I was like, cool. We can hit you up on the way out of town. And so we were trying to find a place. And Taryn wanted to go to that Ichiban place that she loved in San Angelo, and they were closed because of COVID.
Yep.
So we were trying to find a place, and you were like, I'll find us a place. And you sent the angry cactus. I'm like, the angry cactus? That's interesting. Thinking I'm going to go into some like scary bar. It just sounds scary. But it was like the only thing open.
Right. Downtown.
And I didn't realize it was a really nice restaurant. So, anyway, she's like, okay, cool. She knew what it was, so she didn't even think twice about it. She was like, yeah, cool. So we go, and you're an hour late. And you're like, can I bring my sister? Because you were, I guess, freaking out.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a question of, like, what's going on? You know, I didn't know who you were. I knew you had a girl's voice, but, I mean, who's to say you don't have, you know, people behind you? You're a puppet.
Right.
Because
you're paranoid like me a little bit.
It's a cruel world out there when you know what human trafficking is and what they're capable of, and they'll exhaust and everything. So, yeah, you'd be an idiot not to.
Right. So, and I had my gun and my pepper spray because I'm the same. Well, and being like in real estate and landscaping out where I was many times out in the middle of nowhere on properties by myself with a bunch of men.
Yeah, and hopefully as a woman, you've been preached to about all of that. And as a guy, I'm like,
and a lot of those men didn't even speak English. So, you know, you just can't be. And actually, my guys from Guanajuato were like the safest, most sweet guys I'd ever had. Best crew ever until they were stolen from me. But anyway,
so we meet at the Angry Cactus at about, I think I was
you end up
30
showing up
minutes.
at 6.
A little bit late,
like 6.
45 minutes late.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to move a piece of equipment it only drove like 15 miles an hour, so I was a little late.
Yeah, and we were just, Taryn and I were just sitting there like drinking water, and I think she was on the phone a bunch because she was running the hospital, so she kept having to take calls. We were just chilling, and then you showed up. You're like, "Can I bring my sister?" And I was like, "Sure." Then I knew. I was like, "He thinks I'm a stalker because I showed up in his town the next day." I mean, it is a little strange, and I totally got that. But I honestly wasn't coming to meet you to like date you. I'm expecting some construction worker to walk in that's like stinky and dirty. You know, like I work in landscaping. Like those guys at the end of the day, they usually look like scary. And I had been sweating all day. I had like cleaned up, you know, whatever before you got there, like washed my face, but I wasn't exactly like, I was wearing a t-shirt, shorts, tennis shoes,
right.
You know, not trying to impress anybody. And then I was just trying to not look like I was from a garage. I mean, I just felt gross, you know, and
you didn't look gross.
And I
didn't know all of that. So anyway.
But, you know, I get like rashes from the dust and stuff. So I had to like go in the bathroom and wash my arms because I get rashes and I'm allergic to the dust. And anyway, so y'all showed up and I just remember like you walked in and I'm like, well, that's not what I expected. It was honestly like shocking. And I had told you on the phone, I guess, that I'm a hugger. Everybody knows I'm a hugger. And for whatever reason, it came up that I'm a hugger. So you hugged me. I went to shake your hand awkwardly and you hugged me. And I was like, oh, okay. And you hugged me like hard.
I'll give you a proper hug.
You gave me a very proper hug. I'm like, oh. But not like in an aggressive, like weird, creepy way.
No, I just gave you a proper
people are creepy,
greeting hug.
Like about it. You weren't creepy. Yeah, it was like firm, but it was.
Yeah.
It was. I was a little bit.
Well, at this time,
off.
we had already talked on the phone. I mean, a little bit. So it's not like you're sort of a perfect stranger, but we shared a lot and almost 4 hours of talking on the phone. So it's not like.
Yeah, we got on the phone and immediately when the first time you spoke a word, I just remember thinking, I like his voice. I really like his voice. You have a great voice.
So we sat there for 45 minutes to an hour, and then had
your
some,
sister
chips
immediately left. She was like, she met
stayed
me
there
and
for
Taryn.
20 minutes.
She was like, "You're good. I'm out," because your nephew has. He's a special needs kid, and she wanted to get back to him, I guess.
Yeah, he's vaccine injured, so she had to get back to him.
He is very vaccine injured. It's such a sad, awful story, but people who don't think that happens, I'll bring her on the show.
Yeah, Jenny McCarthy's type stuff. Anyway.
But it's true.
Yeah, absolutely true.
There's a lot of people out there, thousands and thousands. So anyway, we're not going to get on that tangent. We'll do that another day.
We're at this rate, we're probably not going to even finish all the nuances that we have.
We got to go. So, to finish our story,
to continue the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So after like 45 minutes, Taryn was needing to, because she was going to drive back to San Antonio.
she
so
left.
y'all needed to make a decision on,
she'd walked outside, and it's like, hey, I got to take this call. She went outside and left us by ourselves for a while. And you were like, she was like, hey, we got to go. I think she texted me from the car. She was like, we got to go. And I was like, all right. I was like, and I don't even know what I was even thinking or why I said it, but I was like,
I wish we could spend more time together.
I know. I was like, I don't want this to end. Like, I wish we could spend more time together. And you were like, me too. And for whatever reason, I don't know what came over me, but it was weird. Like, I was like, you want to drive me home? And then immediately after I said, do you want to drive me home? I was like, why did you just say that? Because you were like, sure. And I'm like,
well, we tried to get Taryn's brother to take you back the next day. Because that was actually the first option. Yeah, that was the first option.
Keenan's no longer with us.
And then you're like, well, do you want to just drive me back tonight? And I was like, well.
Sure. I was like, you want to drive me back? Like, being silly about it. And you're like, sure. And I'm like, ugh. So I walked outside and I was like, Taryn, he wants to drive me home. And she was like, I'm like, you think I should go with him? She was like, absolutely. He's a gentleman. I was like, Taryn, he could be a serial killer. She's like, you have your gun? You got your pepper spray? She's like, you'll be fine. She's a lot bigger risk taker than me. She dated people online and stuff. So she's definitely more trusting. I am not trusting. I am super paranoid. And then, so she was like, yeah, go with him. And I'm like, oh my God, she's literally, I was so nervous. I was terrified. I'm sure you had to know.
So, guys, she gets in the pickup and I have to go because this is completely off script and not anything I planned to do. So I drive her out to the farm to my trailer.
Out to the farm, y'all.
In the farm, and the sun's
30 minutes away from the city, in the middle of nowhere, and the sun's going down, and you can't see a house or a person or a car for 20 miles because you can see 20 miles out there.
Yeah, it's up on a hill, so you have a vantage point. So she starts wigging out a little bit. She didn't really. You did a pretty good job of not really. I could tell you were nervous, but I was trying to
your
just
RV.
I was just
Cousin
trying to
Eddie.
Yeah, I was Cousin Eddie for about 5 months. But anyway, she did good. She held it together. I went and packed up an overnight bag and drove her.
Fast. You were in and out fast.
Yeah, I mean, I had everything.
So I was starting to figure out, where can I run? If I need to run, where do I need to go?
Nowhere.
There's nowhere to go. And my heart was pounding out of my chest. The sun was going down.
Too, so if I needed to off
what?
I'm just playing.
I'm texting Taryn, You have my location, right? She's like, you're going to be fine. And then you drove me all the way home, 2.5 hours. And in the dark and down I-10. And I got a little scared because you were driving close to 18-wheelers.
And Karen, when she gets nervous, she talks a lot.
I do.
So she talked. We both talked.
What's your favorite L word?
Literally. That's not my favorite one. It's your favorite word. When she's serious, she says the L word, and it's not love.
It's literally.
Literally. And I think I might have said it that night. It was like, that is your favorite L word, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, you called me out straight up. The first time I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah, well.
We made it all the way to Bernie, and you stopped at the store, and you got a 6-pack of beer, and I needed a 6-pack of beer. I was so nervous the whole way. You could tell I was nervous.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I really sensed you being nervous is when we pulled up, and I grabbed my stuff from the trailer. The rest of it, I felt like you were pretty chill.
I was nervous.
Yeah, I know. No. But.
And then we got to Taryn's because you were like, I'll stay in a hotel. There's only one hotel in Spring Branch, Bulverde. Right. One. And I felt bad because you'd driven all that way and then you're going to go stay in a hotel. I was like, you can just stay in our guest room. And no big deal. Well, I text Taryn and then I realized, she's like, girl, that room is full of because I had moved all my stuff out of the old house into the guest room before I got my storage. I was waiting for my storage, get my storage. And so it was full of stuff and you couldn't stay in there. And I was like, and you couldn't stay on the couch because it was what? She didn't have a couch. Remember? She didn't have a couch at the time.
Yeah,
she got rid of her couch.
got those couches
a few
weeks later.
Yeah. You came to visit and you ended up moving couches for us. And then you moved the couch for Brenda, too. You were moving a lot of couches when you met me.
Yep.
Because we went, so you ended up staying at the house for 2 days, 2 nights, 3 days. 2
nights, 3 days. We went to the river. We, got to know each other. I
showed you all the, took you to my jobs, took you to some listings. I put a contract on a house while you were there.
Yeah.
Kind of showed you the ropes. We drove all around Comal County, showing you around, and you're kind of like, oh, wow.
Then I rode off into the sunset. You thought you'd never hear from me again.
That's true. I thought I'd never see you again.
I went back west.
But you didn't try to hook up with me the first night, so then I was like, okay, he's really a gentleman. Because if you did, I would have never talked to you again anyway. So, and I didn't try to hook up with you either. And so I think the feeling was mutual.
Yeah.
And then we hung out, and then you left, and I was not sure I'd ever hear from you again. Because I wasn't even sure, you live far away, and you're trying to get to Houston. So I was like...
Yeah, that was always the opposition for me.
Yeah, I was like, why? I'm not going to try to have a relationship with somebody.
So when I asked God to tell me, and then all these things start kind of happening, and then when
Instantly.
I went down there, when I drove you down there, and I hung out for the 2 or 3 days, I started thinking, well, there's people in construction going on everywhere.
I mean, we're driving down the road. There's skid steers everywhere.
It's like the pandemic isn't even going on.
Where I was now. Nobody cared. Nobody was wearing a mask.
And I'm like, there's more work than people can shake a stick at. And it matches up with what my sister's saying. And it's matching up to what you're telling me. I'm like, well, if I can't get a job in Houston, maybe I can, find a job in the San Antonio area. And then I would at least be half the distance from the farm. Because it wasn't going to work out for me, having the kids whenever I lived 6.5 hours away. So if I couldn't move to Houston, the next best plan B would be to move there. And I called to New Braunfels, and I called my sister and my brother-in-law, and I said, hey, do you have any leads on some jobs? And Justin says, yes. That same afternoon, I had 2 job interviews, one for a landscaping company, another for an excavation company. So it all happened just really fast, and everything kind of fit together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
And
it was commercial landscaping, not like what I was doing. So it wasn't a conflict of interest as much. If you went to work for a company like mine, that would be a conflict of interest if you were doing a little bit of work for me.
Yeah, there was a bigger outfit.
Right, because you ended up actually, once you moved and took that job. But yeah, so it's even cooler is at the same exact time that you decided to move and take that job, Taryn's dad was selling his RV, which was absolutely the perfect RV for you in your price range. It was everything you needed. And you ended up buying her dad's RV, which was in San Angelo, which was super close for you to go check it out. And then he brought it to Caney Lake because he could just stay with Taryn. I mean, what are the chances of all of those things literally falling into place exactly the way that you need them to make everything work? Because I feel like if one thing didn't work or one thing didn't work or one thing didn't happen, we may not have made it.
Yeah, there wasn't any resistance on everything.
Nothing.
That's what was the craziest part. I mean, we have control of a lot of things, and timing's not one of them. And that was something if you decide to drop the reins and let God take it, it's probably just going to happen.
And then you went to work for Kripco, the commercial landscape, and now you're best friends with the guy you worked with.
My boss, yeah.
Then they begged you to stay and offered you a ton of money, and you're like, I can't. I have to go with my kids. Yeah. And so we ended up eventually getting jobs over here and moving. Yeah. And at first we weren't even going to move here. We were going to stay east of New Braunfels. So we ended up, staying in a relationship, getting into a relationship. You moved there.
Yeah, building a relationship.
I lived in an RV. For a year.
Yeah, and we, kind of took it slow on that front.
And then I bought an RV and lived in my RV. And I was in Spring Branch, and you were in Caney Lake and working in New Braunfels, and I was doing my thing. And then the freeze happened. So
this is February of 21.
The freeze hit.
We decided to get an apartment.
Because I was like, I can't do this RV stuff.
Yeah.
It was hard. With all the kids, and we were both, it was just kind of chaotic.
And then by the end of 22, we decided to move to the Woodlands, and you found a job before I did.
I didn't even try to find a job. I told a couple of people I was thinking about moving to the Woodlands, and then people were calling me going, hey, I know somebody over there. You should go talk to them. I had like, how many interviews? I had probably like 8 offers in 2 weeks, which I hadn't even applied anywhere. It was really like everything. God literally just
it plays into the
throwing
same thing.
everything
You just
at us. Like, no, this is what you're doing. You
drop
don't have a
the reins.
choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have choices, but you know, if you really believe in God and really believe in doing right by Him and doing everything in His name, and you follow that path, then it's just going to happen.
Without hesitancy. And I mean,
you got to have faith, because all those things we did were literally insane.
Yeah. You look back on it and you're like, yeah, that was crazy. But I mean, there's so many other facets of our relationship that fit together. I mean, I have 3 kids and you have 2 kids, and we've put them together, and we blended like instantly. It's like everything fit together. And
is Oliver going to be with us? Is Casey going to be there? Is Sullivan going to be there? Like, they just always wanted to be together. And so that's what I was going to say is, like, we ended up getting that apartment thinking we're going to stay, because I was like, I'm not going to move my kids away from their dad. I want people to understand that I literally made it very clear to you and everybody else I was not going to move.
And I never
But I would compromise and move to, like, Seguin or somewhere. And you never pushed me. You're like, okay.
I didn't want to push the kids.
And it caused a lot of conflict with you and your ex-wife and your kids, because you had been planning to move to Houston. It just wasn't working. And at the time, your dad was very sick, and it was halfway between the farm and Houston. So it was a good place to be able to go back to the farm. We went to the farm a lot. And we went to Houston a lot. And it was just, 2.5 hours, much longer, 4 hours. And we were staying in these really cool at Roy's up in Montgomery, Conroy's. Play Airbnb with his little private lake that's turquoise, and if y'all ever need a place to stay, that's an awesome place. It's on Airbnb. But anyway, so we weren't going to move here, but then we made a trip one time to Roy's, and on the way back, it was my boys were like, why don't we just move here? We really like it here, and we want to be closer to Rose and Oliver, and we really feel like Casey should be closer to his kids. And at the time, my kid's dad was not being very responsible with showing up to their stuff anyway. So it was kind of like, why are we staying here? I was 10 minutes from his house, and he still wasn't coming. I was like, you can see the kids anytime. And he never came unless it was his scheduled time. And even then, sometimes he wasn't coming. So it was like, why are we pulling you away from your kids? And why are we going back and forth when he doesn't really seem to... I don't know, but had my kids not said that, I would have never, ever even, it was never even a thought. It was never even an option for me. But once they said that, we're like, I don't know. So then we started talking about it and started kind of thinking about it.
Yeah, and this is like, right before Thanksgiving, I think. Like the end of October or something.
Yeah, it was in the fall.
Yeah, so this is the end of October. I think
it was the weekend we went to Margaritaville and met up with Lachey, and they saw the lake.
Well, then that was
Halloween.
Yeah, so it was Halloween. So by the 1st of
December is when I had told a couple of people we were thinking about it.
Yeah, so you landed
by January. I was already interviewing people. I mean, I was already coming here for interviews, and then by February 1st, I had a job.
By February 1st,
yeah,
and then I found a job. I finally found a job June 20th.
Yeah.
So
and we just rented the first house we found.
Yeah.
Looked at and I moved, and I was here 5 months by myself. I had a Bigfoot experience. I was terrified out of my mind. If y'all haven't heard the Bigfoot episodes, there's many of them that I talk about it. And calling him, we were in the middle of I'd never lived in the woods like that where it was pitch black. I was terrified.
She's watched too many scary movies.
Those things that actually happened.
Okay.
I didn't make them up.
I didn't find any big rocks on the roof. And if
the
they
guy threw them off. The guy that went up there to do the cable threw them down.
Then they were big boulders?
They were like this big.
That put a hole in the roof, honey. If
that's what he said. He threw it. I don't think it put a hole in the roof, but he said that he thinks where one of the rocks had landed, it ripped the cable out. Remember, I had to call the cable company or the internet company.
Oh, the fiber company to replace that.
Yeah, it was Mid-South, which was the best internet I've ever had. And then we moved to the Woodlands, where you think it's so, and we have the worst internet ever. Yeah. So anyway, so we ended up here, and here we are with all of our children. And now you're fixing to take off. You got to get out of here and go pick up kids, and I got to go get kids because you have a soccer tournament in Louisiana this weekend, and I have a basketball tournament to take one to, and then we have a landscape job because our 16-year-old now is carrying on the landscaping tradition.
Yep.
And he's doing just listings like minor stuff like mulch and flowers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's our story. There's still more to it.
No, there's so many side conversations you can have.
So many details of just the crazy things that would happen. The irony of
still
God
today.
works in mysterious ways, y'all, for real. Like it was God's plan. I'm 100% positive. I know you are too.
Yeah.
We both had given it to God during that time, and everything fell into place. And the minute we start trying to do things on our own,
that's when
things
we
get
get
sideways.
humbled.
Yeah, it will humble you real quick.
Yeah, you're like, oh, who you kidding?
Give it back to Him, and everything will work out. And it may not work out the way you think it's going to. It may not work out the way you imagined it or thought you wanted it. But if you just have trust in Him and wait till you get to the other side, it all works out, because it was hard. How many times did I push you away?
Quite a few.
A lot. I was a disclosure there. I wasn't even divorced. I had like a month left until my divorce was officially final.
Right.
Right. Because you have a waiting period. And I was fresh. You know, my wound was wide open. You had been divorced for 5-6 years.
Correct.
And so, separated for even longer. So
right.
You had already been through a large healing
You
process.
were digesting your...
Yeah. And then you were the one who was kind of like, hey...
Yeah.
This is what's happening to you. You're being tricked, and you started kind of helping me with that path, because I had been told by my attorney these things and by my therapist, but I just really wasn't
a cooperation.
Well, and
really
he's
helped.
not the type of person that they really were, or not exactly in that box, but I found the other box in my journeys of you continuing to push me to open my mind.
And it wasn't
to
just
things.
me; it was other friends that you had.
It's
too.
true.
It's a whole network. It's
But
the whole village tells you. Yeah.
But I know that God put you in my life. It was crazy to me, because everybody's like, dude, you're literally like, you need to take some time. And I even felt like I need some time, man. Like, I need to heal.
Yeah, but whenever you find somebody that has all the check marks on the list, except for one, come on.
Except the one? Which one? Okay,
No,
so I had
it's
my
your
36
list.
items.
You get to
36
tell.
items, Dick. What do you think the one thing was that he didn't have on my list? I had stuff on there like he had to two-step, waltz, like he had to like muscle cars. Number 1 was he had to believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Number 2 is he had to like kids and dogs, I think.
He snored.
That wasn't on my list.
Okay.
No.
I tried.
He does snore. I snore sometimes too, though. It's okay.
Yeah.
He snores a lot. But I sleep really hard, so it doesn't matter as long as I go to sleep before him. I had on my profile and on my list that he had to be over 6 feet tall. And he's only 5'11".
A little short on that one.
He was a little short.
Pun intended.
Pun.
Pun.
But it's fine. It worked out. We're eye level. So when we argue, I feel like I'm his equal. I'm just kidding. He's way stronger than me.
Yeah, I'll put you down.
He has a voice that carries.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a great story, and I am eternally grateful.
Well, me too.
For
And
him.
it's not over yet. It's still going.
Eternally.
Absolutely.
So,
I love you.
I love you too. Aw. So anybody who has been through it, there is always hope on the other side.
Absolutely.
I tell you, okay, I have one more thing I have to tell everybody. One more thing, we can go. I was volunteering at this place called The Loft, and it's a nonprofit coffee shop. It's Christian. We had a food bank during COVID, which was a lot of people needed, and it was like my safe place to go. I'm gonna cry.
Your sanctuary?
It was my sanctuary, and I had all these people there that helped me through my whole process and supported me. And sorry guys. The day I came back to the Loft, after spending 3 days with him, people were like, they knew. They already knew, and I didn't want to tell anybody anything because that would be insane. But after like a month, I started kind of mentioning it because I was very close to all these people. I knew like my whole life and everything that was going on in personal. I couldn't like keep it from people, but they're like, what's going on with you? And then people just kept telling me for months, constantly, like, oh my God, you just look so happy. You look so happy. That to me was like, they knew that something had changed, even though I wasn't telling them what it was.
Yeah.
They thought it was because my divorce was final.
No. Well.
It was that
Double fold.
Yeah, I mean that was bittersweet.
Yeah.
Very bittersweet. But yeah, it was. You can tell when people are truly happy.
Well, you're welcome. I really do.
You're welcome too. Yeah, he does have to go. He has to get on the road, y'all. But
absolutely, it gets copacetic both ways.
But yeah, and maybe he'll come back on again. We can tell you some more. But he also is on the show. If y'all ever want to learn about ranching, he had a show called The Sustainable Rancher, and he's going to come back on soon because now we're recording on a day he can actually come back on and talk about how to farm. I've had people is your husband going to come back on? I really need tips on how to like grow a garden and teach them how to make your little chicken poop tea that you got all your chicken poop from Candace Morris.
Sure. No problem.
Anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, y'all have a good one. And thanks, babe, for coming on today and telling our story.
You're the most welcome. Bye-bye.